Good morning, or depending when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name's Ross, and as always told, I had a voice radio, so today I'm continuing my look at the best and most interesting Pokemon from the 2017 video game format. We are looking at one of my very favourites today. It's Araquanid, not one of the most popular Pokemon. It's only the 29th most popular on the global battle link, but I assure you, ladies and gentlemen, I think it's a lot better than that, and I'm going to be making a bit of an argument for why it should be played more. Now, if we look at the base stats of this water bug Pokemon, we can see essentially that it's going to be attack, not special attack. 70 to 50 is quite a big jump. And it's got monster special defense at 132 and very low speed at 42. It's not the end of the world, to be perfectly honest, because of course it just fits into a Trick Room team. In Trick Room, slowest Pokemon go first, fastest Pokemon go last. So that makes Araquanid really quite good. It does mean that if you're training an Araquanid, breeding an Araquanid, you want a 0 speed IV, and your special attack IV is entirely irrelevant. And to be honest, I talk about the special defense at 132, but defense of 92 is nothing to be sniffed at, though the HP is a little bit low for my liking. In terms of natures, generally this tends to be brave, 54.3% online were, which puts the attack up. Yay, we're doing more damage. And the speed down. Yay, we're faster in Trick Room. When you get to the kind of speed of Araquanid, you might as well go slow for Trick Room. But there were 20.3% of them online being quiet, special attack up, speed down. This is for special attacking sets, and as we're going to see, there are a couple of special attacking moves Araquanid has, and 18.9% of them were adamant, attack up, special attack down. This would be for non-Trick Room Araquanid sets, so you're looking at kind of outspeed Pokemon like other Araquanids when you're not in Trick Room. Now, in terms of weakness, you are water type, hitting weakness on Pokemon like Araquanid, Mudsdale, Marowak, and of course Torkoal, which is nice. You're also hitting weakness against rock Pokemon like Nihilego and Gigalith. Not too bad. In terms of bug weakness, there isn't that much weak to bug at the moment. You've got grass and psychic Pokemon, but you're not hitting weakness on Tapu Lele. So in terms of bug weakness, you're only really looking at Pokemon like Lilligant and Oranguru, which is not particularly great. In terms of weakness, you are weak to flying. Think Pokemon like Celesteela, Gyarados and Pelipper. Rock, think Gigalith, Nihilego, and random rock slide users like Garchomp, although do remember that if it's not a rock Pokemon using a rock move, they don't get the same type attack bonus. And then, of course, you're weak to electric, which is really the biggest problem here. There are things like Xurkitree and Porygon 2's Thunderbolt, although he doesn't get stab. But really, the biggest threat to Araquanid here is the last Pokemon that I had a little look at, Tapu Koko. That is a bit of an awkward thing. If Tapu Koko is running with Life Orb, then they will get a guaranteed one-hit KO with Thunderbolt. But if it's a Z move, Tapu Koko not running Life Orb, they've only got a 12.5% chance of getting a one-hit KO. Both of those are assuming that Electric Terrain is out. But there's no point even trying to EV train your special defense up a little bit. You've got a really good special defense, but even if you go and put 252 EVs into special defense, Life Orb would still have a 43.8% chance to get a one-hit KO with Thunderbolt in electric terrain, which is too high for my liking when you're putting all of your eggs into the special defense basket. In terms of abilities, essentially here, it's Water Bubble. 99.9% of them online are using Water Bubble. It doubles the power of water moves and prevents you getting burned and halves the damage from fire moves. The fun thing is that the flavor text in-game just says it prevents burn and halves fire damage. It doesn't even tell you that it doubles the power of water moves. This ability is so good, it's kind of borderline broken. Doubling your attack power and stopping you getting... But it really is amazing. It also really helps because things like Araquanid cannot use Will-o'-the-Wisp to try and burn you and lower your attack. Yay! Now there is a second ability here, Water Absorb. It's the hidden ability, and it restores 25 of your HP if you're hit by a water move. Just use Water Bubble. Now in terms of items, 55.1% are using Waterium Z, which gives you that really powerful Z move when you couple it with Liquidation. And it will have a base power of 160 when used with Liquidation. Yay! This will always KO Araquanid, it will always KO Tapu Koko, and there is a 43.8% chance to KO your average belly drum Snorlax. It's that powerful, ladies and gentlemen. 19.2% of Araquanids online use Choice Specs. This boosts your special attack by 50%, but it means you are locked into the first move you select until you switch out. Now, of course, Araquanid has a higher attack stat than special attack, and the best move on most Araquanids is Liquidation, which is physical. But Araquanid does have some good special moves like Surf, Ice Beam and Scald, which we'll look at in a moment. So you could run an Araquanid set based around those moves using Choice Specs, and then your relatively low special attack will be put a little bit higher, in fact 50% higher. But the one that really interests me is Mystic Water. This is run by 9.2% of Araquanids online and was run by one of the Japanese chaps who made top 8 at the Japanese National Championships. Now, this boosts your water moves by 20%, which means you give up your once per game Hydro Vortex from your Z Crystal, but your Liquidation always does an extra 20% damage. And just running a few basic calculations here. This now, if we take your standard Tapu Koko, which does not put any EVs into defense, because most of them don't, this turns your Liquidation from a 6.3% chance of KO into a guaranteed KO. Given that Tapu Koko is one of your biggest problems, that's pretty sweet. Similarly, your average bulky support Araquanid that has 188 EVs in defense, with normal Liquidation you have no chance to one-hit KO, with Mystic Water you have an 18.8% chance to one-hit KO. It's still quite low, but we've all seen those games where you just get the KO at the right time and it wins you the game. That's what this has the opportunity to do. Give up Hydro Vortex. But actually, this is really quite funky. And 4.2% of users use Assault Vest. Now, this boosts your special defense by 50%, but it means you can't use status moves. The downside of this is that you're not going really aggressive with something like Liquidation, which most Araquanid want to do. But it does give you a guaranteed survival against a Tapu Koko with Life Orb in electric terrain using Thunderbolt. Without Assault Vest, it's a guaranteed one-hit KO, assuming you put no EVs into special defense, which, as I mentioned earlier, is something Araquanid's probably not going to do very often. So moving into moves, 76.1% of users use Liquidation. It's a water attack, physical, 85 power, 100 accuracy. It is, for physical Araquanid sets, the best water move. 74.3% of them use Protect, just because you're vulnerable to stuff like Tapu Koko, you're slow, sometimes you need to buy a turn. 48.7% of them use Wide Guard. This protects you from multi-target moves. It protects your partner as well. So things like Tapu Koko using Dazzling Gleam or Discharge, your Garchomp using Earthquake and Rock Slide, anything that uses a double targeting move, Wide Guard will protect. That's quite handy. 32.5% use Leech Life, a physical bug attack with 80 power and 100 accuracy that heals up to 50% of the damage that you did. And 31% of them use Bug Bite, another bug physical move with 60 power and 100 accuracy, so it does 20 less than Leech Life, But if your opponent's using a berry, you eat it and gain their effect. Given that most Snorlaxes, most Arcanines, most Alolan Mucks, etc. nowadays are using these pinch berries, being able to eat that, heal yourself and stop your opponent being able to use it and recycle it in the future is really quite funky. Now there are some special moves that can be used here. 25.1% of users use Surf, the best special water move, 90 power, 100 accuracy, and it hits both of your opponent's Pokémon. But remember that most Araquanids are physical attackers, so wouldn't want to use this. If you don't want to use Surf, you can use Scold. Water special, 80 power rather than 90, but it does give you a 30% chance of burn, which is kind of funky. 17.2% of users use Ice Beam, which is an ice move, so you don't get the same type attack bonus, but you do get to hit 4 times weakness on Garchomp, which is fun. And 15.4% of users use Poison Jab. We're back to being a physical move here. You get a 30% chance of poison, but you don't get that same type attack boost. And then finally, 15.2% of users use Substitute. This means that you set up a substitute, you give up 25% of your HP, and you make a substitute with 1 more hit point than you gave up. And it means your opponent can then not damage you until they get rid of your substitute. Now in terms of results, Araquanid has really kind of dropped off the map lately. In the Indianapolis Internationals in the US, no one in the Top Cut played Araquanid. And in Liverpool Regionals recently, no one in the Top Cut played Araquanid. But in Japanese Nationals on June the 17th, we did see an Araquanid make Top Cut. It was brave, it had Mystic Water to do that extra 20% to your physical moves, and it obviously had Water Bubble as the ability, with Liquidation, Substitute, Wide Guard, and Protect. A standard kind of set which is defensive and throws out Liquidation. There was one in Perth Regionals on June the 24th. But if we go back a little bit, Gavin Michaels won Anaheim Regionals with one in February in a hard Trick Room set that really just went straight for Trick Room. This was a brave set with Waterium Z, Water Bubble, and then Liquidation, Substitute, Protect, and Lunge. Now, Lunge is a move I haven't actually mentioned yet. It's really not that widely played, but it's a physical bug move with 80 power, 100 accuracy, and it lowers your opponent's attack by 1 stage. So it's a decent bug move, but you can lower your opponent's attack while doing it, which is quite fun. And then on March the 4th in Sheffield, it was played in the winning team, the runner-up team, and the team that made top 4. Now, Albert Boz, who won, now I assume he was playing a brave Araquanid, but I can't confirm that. But he was playing it with Water Bubble, Waterium Z, and then Liquidation, Bug Bite, Toxic, and Protect. So essentially, it used to be really popular. Not many people are playing it at the moment. And yes, I know it's a problem with Tapu Koko, but like I've said, you've got options there. And it's hitting so many good weaknesses, and it's such a powerful attacker. But hey-ho. In terms of EV spreads, I did find this spread from Gavin Michaels. Now, I believe this is a slightly earlier one than the one with which he won in Anaheim. But searching around, honestly, this seems to be a fairly standard EV spread for Araquanid. I found many sets out there looking like this, although like I've said, the only ones I tend to share in these videos are ones that have had proven success. Full EVs into HP, because as I've said, your HP is low, it's a stat that jumps out at the beginning. Full EVs into attack, because you know what? You kind of need it in there, because, well, it's such a good physical attacker, it's building strength on strength. And then just 4 into special defense, because like I've said, special defense, it's nice to boost it up a little bit. Yay! Now, the thing we need to finish off here is having a quick look at partners. So you've got Porygon 2 and Mimikyu here, as well as Nihilego. All of these three are Trick Room setters, and Araquanid is way better in Trick Room. Actually, I forgot to mention that Oranguru is actually a Trick Room setter as well. Shouldn't surprise you with his low speed that he's played with so many good Trick Room Pokemon. Now we got Tapu Koko there, who's got a terrain that stops Araquanid being put to sleep, as well as just generally giving you a fast attacker to even out with your slow Araquanid. Oranguru also has Instruct, which basically just makes you use the same move again, allowing you to have 2 liquidations in a single turn, which is pretty nice, especially if you're using Mystic Water. Arcanine is there because he's got Intimidate, which lowers your opponent's attack, which gives you some extra survivability. Hariyama is also a really good Pokemon in Trick Room, so it makes sense that the Trick Room gets set and they both go in there together. Although it's also got Fake Out, stop one of your opponent's Pokemon attacking, set up some space to use that liquidation. We've also seen a Kartana here, who's a really fast attacker, so you compare it with the slower Araquanid, though Araquanid is weak to rock, and Kartana hits weakness against rock. And of course, Tapu Bulu, he's got his grassy terrain, which heals you a bit of health each turn, but it's also the slowest Tapu, so maybe a little bit of Trick Room use there as well. I am a huge fan of Araquanid, ladies and gentlemen. The sky-high attack, coupled with that water bubble ability, the high special defense, I mean, really, ladies and gentlemen, it is a very good Pokemon. I would not be surprised to see it having a good showing at the World Championships this weekend, but tell me what you think about Araquanid in the comments. Go nuts, be nice. Make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at TheWassy, and Twitch at twitch.tv/PTCGRadio. That's where live action happens. And if you want to support the channel, you can do so at patreon.com/PTCGRadio. But by far the most important thing, as always, look after yourselves until next time. Thank you very much for watching. My name is Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.